Jimmy didn't have any juice around the station. It's not like he could go into Kevin Weatherly, the program director's office, or even Kevin and Bean and go, here's what we're going to do, fellas. Like, they just go, no, we're not. So, like, we used to finish the show and we'd go out to lunch or breakfast at like noon because, we're done with work. Everyone else is at work. We're like done. And we just sit around going, what could we do? Like, what show could we do together? You know? And it was like, at some point, some other radio station came calling and they're like, well, we do a radio show on our station. I was like, me and my buddy, Jimmy Kimmel, could do a show on your radio station. And they're like, Jimmy's a behind the scenes guy. Like, he's a producer. He's not a talent, like you're the talent. He's kind of the producer. I don't see you two co-hosting a show. And we were forbidden for being on the air together at K-Rock. Because when we came on together, we like got each other too goosed up or something. So nobody was like, you and Jimmy have to do something. But me and Jimmy were like, me and you have to do something.
So then and you guys created
The Man Show.
The Man Show.
Yeah, we were like sitting around and Jimmy was like at the point of his career where he's like starting to go out on some auditions for like Good Morning Glendale. They went to Perky Host and the guy
was
with the radio
Kevin Bean
shops.
at that point nationwide?
No, they're just syndicated in Los Angeles, but all the agents and all the other people were out here.
Would Kevin sit on the floor back then like he does today?
No, he sat upright at that stage in his radio career. And Jimmy was driving home from one of these Good Morning Glendale auditions, and he said to me, they want me to be likable to women. And then he paused and he went, my wife doesn't even like me. I said, I know. I said, how could we? He said, we forget about being likable to women. We should just do our own show. What's called the Man Show. Like, forget about what women think. We're not going to win them over.
No,
we'll just lean into it. You're unlikable. I'm unlikable. Let's do the Man Show.
Let's do fucking man shit.
Trying to make everyone happy. Let's just lean into it. And
how hard was that thing to get on air though?
Well, that thing wasn't
hard, right?
It was funny because it was originally a pilot on ABC.
Ooh.
And it was initially
so stupid.
It was
ovations.
It was initially a pilot and it didn't get picked up by NBC, but eventually Comedy Central picked it up, and then once it got picked up, it just kind of immediately became successful.
And then Rogan was on the Man Show.
Rogan and Doug Stanhope took over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never, it's weird. I don't think Jimmy liked us being replaced
I wouldn't
that
either.
way.
I wouldn't either.
I just didn't have any thoughts about it.
Really? Because you guys cultivated and created that thing. I would definitely feel some type. I'd probably be more in the Jimmy camp there.
I think most people would. Were
you both married back then?
I wasn't. Jimmy was. My feeling was we created this show. Unfortunately, we don't own the show. We created it, and it's super successful. And they're gonna do a season 5, and there's really nothing we can do about it. So that's it. I don't care. Like, I always think it's a bad kind of use of time when like somebody says, it's like I work with Mark Garagos, and it's like he'll take a job defending Scott Peterson, and everyone will go like, you're such a piece of shit, you're defending a murder. It's like, somebody's got to defend this guy.
Yeah.
And that's his job. And it's weird for you to not like the person. Like Doug, Joe, it's like their phone rang and somebody said, you want to host the Man Show?
It's not on them.
They went, and they went to host the show. Like, of course. And the network is like, hey man, we're doing gangbusters in the ratings. We're in season 4. Let's go to season 5. And the producers are like, hey, this is a fucking cash cow.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who to blame.
You guys didn't want to do it anymore.
No, I think what had happened, I have to get Jimmy's version of it because I'm never sure how it was. We were like we had completed our 100th show.
Oh, wow.
And when this show started, I came in and so did Jimmy, with like a whole shitload of like, hey, I want to do this and I want to do that. I want to do this bit. I want to do that bit. And by the time you do 100 episodes, you're like, it's like any band with that first great album because they've been touring and playing bars and honky tonks for 10 years. And then the record company goes, put out the next album 6 months later. It's like, we don't got anything.
Talk to everybody else. Yeah.
Right. So it wasn't like that. Like the shows were good, and we always made sure they were funny, and we always put a lot of time into them, and we always really made sure they were like the product was there. But like after 100 episodes, we're like, I feel like we've said what we had to say. And Jimmy got the nod from ABC to go host a late show, and
which was a big deal, right? Because
that's a big deal.
The biggest deal, but I don't think either of you guys thought that would happen, right? Like that's such a big deal.
I was like, this is a big deal. This is a huge opportunity, and Jimmy helped me all throughout my career. And so Comedy Central came to me and they're like, well, Jimmy's gone, but you're not, and then we'll just hook you up with Doug Stanhope or Joe Rogan or whoever. They said to me, you do the show any way you want. You do the show alone. You get another guy to fill in for Jimmy. However you want to do it. We want to do a season 5 because it was a big blockbuster for them. And they're like, Jimmy was leaving, but no one else was leaving, all the producers and all that stuff.
The whole team.
So I was like, I don't want to do that. I did the show with Jimmy.
Yeah.
And I'd like to go, with him to ABC to like help him develop or launch, the late night show. And we had a lot of meetings, and they kept wanting to go out to lunch and offer me, God, like $50,000 an episode, which was kind of a lot back then and stuff. And it just seemed weird to do it without Jimmy, obviously. And it's just something I never entertained. So,
do you think you could do the Man Show today? I wonder what that'd be like pitching that.
I feel like there's room for it now.
I do too.
I feel like guys are hurting for something like that.
Yeah, I feel like it is too.
Especially if it was on the, if you were on a Netflix.
It's almost something you'd start on the internet and then
Central.
you'd go from there.
You could do it.
Yeah, you'd have to get on, couldn't be ABC or maybe even Comedy Central, but you'd have to go and you'd have to kind of lean into it. Like you'd have to make like the new Archie Bunker.
You'd
like
find a niche.
The demos there.
What do you think things change now that we've gone through this insanity and we are going through this insanity? I always wonder what the ripple effect are.
Hey, last question about Man Show, and then I'll leave you alone about it. When you and Jimmy were doing that, though, do you look back on it now? When you're in the moment, you guys didn't realize it. Was that the greatest time of your career, though? Because I think about certain things. I try to smell the roses. I'm sure you guys had so much fun, man. You're with your best friend. You have this huge hit show. You're doing what you want to do.
That's how I felt about Houston this weekend, how much fun we had. Like, you have to sometimes go, this is such a blast to be together and just fucking laughing and being silly.
Yeah, there's certain moments.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that was special. But you're a successful dude. Jimmy's successful. You guys are both like these legends now. But for you, do you look back on that as like it was a big deal? Did you embrace it?
It was. I mean, you never fully appreciate that. Like you don't fucking appreciate youth. You know what I mean? Like when you're 25 and in great shape, did you really stop and count? You're like, no, or I didn't.
Your body just wasn't in the way.
Right. But, at some point we had an entire building. It's like me and Jimmy shared an office with Daniel Kellison. And it was like the three of us just sat in a big office. I just had a desk that faced Jimmy's desk. So it's like he was on that side. It's like one of those gay piano lounges where the guys are going in both directions, the yin and the yang of the wang. And it's like I'm like facing him and he's facing me, and I'd be like, hey man, I'd just lean over and let a fart go, I'd let a fart
Getting
go.
no work done.
Getting no work done. And we got a room full of writers, but the writers are like based on guys we want to hang out with, like everything. Like
not even good writers, just dudes that are cool.
My biggest lament. There's two writers we hired, which were funny. One guy still working, named Adam De La Pena. He came in, and like guys would come in and like, I went to Harvard and I was with the National Lampoon and whatever. And then one guy comes in, he's wearing a Hawaiian shirt, but it's kind of funky. And we go, me and Jimmy are like, hey, where'd you get that Hawaiian shirt? And he goes, I made it. And we went, you showed that Hawaiian shirt yourself? And like, he's like, yeah. And we like put the resume down and we go, and he goes, you hire me, I'll make you guys Hawaiian shirts. So like, you're in, dude. You're in. We hired that guy.
Already I'm laughing.
Then there's another guy we hired based on his softball skills because we'd play a softball game at the end of the year. This is the worst. We play a softball game at the end of the year, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, how's your softball game? She's like, I play shortstop. I got a cannon for an arm. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, you're in. You're in. All right. That fucker wrote no jokes the entire season. Fucking sucked. Wasn't even there half the time. And at the end, we got to the softball game, and I'm like, okay,
Now's your
I'm
time,
taking
dude.
you first. The guy sucked. Had a wet noodle for an arm. I was like, fuck. Totally got fucked by this
What
guy.
a fucking liar. You never played softball, you piece of shit.
But it's
you got to be careful with how you. But you can tell somebody's funny with a comment like that, though.
Yeah.
The guy
Was
said
it
something
weird
like that.
once the man show ended, kind of you and Jimmy going your separate ways? That'd been a little funky, right?
It's always most comedic teams end in tragedy. I mean, they just Martin and Lewis or whoever, they end up hating each other. Morning shows end up hating
For sure.
Drive Time. When you take two guys, you put them together for extended periods
Yeah.
of time and tell them to do comedy.
Ryan and I hate each other.
It always that's kind of what I was getting at.
It's got to Adam as the kid, the fighter and Adam.
This is no, Jimmy and I always got along, and it was like I've always been kind of philosophical about like being a little bit behind the scenes. Like I always kind of wanted to do that. Like I thought I'm going to sit at this writer's table and I'm going to like write jokes and stuff. But at a certain point, it was like, it's 5 o'clock, it's time to go. And it's like, Jimmy, we need you on stage to, run the monologue or whatever. And I went, and it's like, hey, Adam, go home. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of liked that. Like, I had a weird perspective on things. Like, when we do the man show and we'd run the monologue, like, before we tape 2 shows on, like, a Friday night or whatever it is, it'd be an empty studio. The writers would all just be sitting in the bleachers or in the audience, and they'd have to watch the monologue, see if they had any ideas or punch up or whatever. And I remember just standing out, they clip the mic on you, you're in your sweatpants, but you have to go get in hair and makeup and blah, 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 cue cards and everything. And I would look out at the writers, and they'd be holding a beer and like eating a sandwich and like fucking around, throwing a Nerf football around. And I would think, I wish I was there.
God, yeah.
Like I know everyone thinks, oh, you wish you were the one up on stage, but I'd see these guys drinking a beer and throwing a Nerf football, and I'd be going, I want to be with you guys, not up here with the makeup and the hair and the going over the cue cards and stuff. So I was always happy just to like slide into the writer's room.
Yeah. I'll tell you this right now.
Yeah.
Watch your tone.
Okay. What's going to happen? What are you going to do? Use some of that boxing you've been doing?
Don't you fucking disrespect.